Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Chris coming at you with another episode to the Beautiful Struggle podcast. And this is episode number 50. And this podcast is a personal development podcast and it's also a business podcast. And really, my goal for this podcast is to empower the listeners, to empower the audience to live the life that you truly deserve. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, we drop a new episode every single Monday, bright and early. We just passed our 1 year anniversary just a couple days ago, so we just want to continue being consistent as possible. With that being said, we also have an Instagram account you go ahead and follow where we drop daily content as well. That's at Beautiful Struggle. Again, that's at Beautiful Struggle Podcast on Instagram, at Beautiful Struggle Podcast for daily content. With all that out the way, if you're watching on YouTube, as you can see, we have another guest on via Zoom. A little bit about the guest that we have on today. He's a real estate mogul who has been in the real estate game for over 20 years now. He's been involved in flipping, wholesaling, and pretty much every aspect of real estate you can think of. Now he's been transitioning into education and really educating people on how to do real estate the correct way and how to avoid major mistakes. My guest for today, Mack Major. Thank you for coming on, bro.
Oh, my pleasure, man. My pleasure, and congratulations on the year with the
Thank you.
podcast, man. It's staying consistent in everything that we do that makes us successful.
Right. I told myself from the beginning, I was like, I may not have a huge audience from the beginning, but I was like, if I stay consistent, we're gonna get there for
Same way,
sure.
Sam. I mean, for me, me starting out so late with social media and everything, I don't have a
Mm,
huge following
mm-hmm.
with my social media, but really the real crux of everything, man, is just getting the information out to be able to help those that want to be helped. So,
Exactly.
you know what, I may not be able to save everyone because everyone is interested in, the flash and the flare. But
Yeah.
if I can help those that are really truly interested in actually building the beautiful, going through the beautiful struggle,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
then it's one of those things where if I can help them, that's all that's really important, because it's really not, to be honest, about fame or fortune. It's about
Mm-hmm.
trying to actually give back and have a solid foundation for people to be successful. I
Right.
didn't have that when I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And so now with the world of social media, the internet, all the rest of
Mm-hmm.
it, people have this great advantage to be like your podcast. They can go on and learn information for free that we just didn't have access to the people or to the
Mm-hmm.
knowledge or to any of that as we were growing up. At least for me, I didn't. I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
much older than you, but
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my struggle was tough. I mean, I came from the inner city of Detroit, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
People hear about Detroit, but they don't really, they haven't been there. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I went through the times where in the city of Detroit, it kind of relates to kind of where we are now, where, we were a Black family moving into basically an all white area
Mm-hmm.
when I was growing up. So even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm a lighter skinned Black person, I'm still identified as being Black in a white community. So I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
had that struggle growing up, and then as time went on, more Blacks moved into the area, and so there was that struggle between the whites and the Blacks. And I'm still light skinned, so even though I'm a lighter skinned Black person, I had to struggle with the darker skinned Black people because they associated me with the white people because
Yeah,
they had
it's almost like you're not black enough for them, and you're not white
white
enough for
and
them.
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was part of the struggle growing up. As I was growing up, it kind of deals with some of the issues that we're kind of facing today. They just don't. This kind of relates to the real estate, but things don't really change. They
Mm-hmm.
just they just morph into something different. You just have to
Mm-hmm.
adapt to the situation. Just like being a successful real estate developer or entrepreneur, you things really stay the same, although different processes come in and different terminology comes in, but it's still the same fundamental stuff. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
understand the fundamentals of what drives people and what makes people
Mm-hmm.
successful, there's still that underlying foundation that goes into it. And so, coming up from the city, I knew that I wanted something different. My mom worked.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, my dad was killed when I was about 12 years old. And so so it's just me and my mom and my sister. So at that point in time, I knew my mom worked 2 or 3 jobs. She was college educated, but still had to work multiple jobs just to get ahead, because at that point in time, women did not have, you know, they didn't have the access to get to higher positions at that point in time. There was still most definitely, I mean, I don't even know if a glass ceiling was even included. I mean, you just had to do, extra just to get through the door at that point in time. So my mom, she had a bachelor's and a master's, and she still struggled. So I knew I had to do something different. So when I went to school, I wanted to be a doctor, but I hated blood. I just couldn't. I mean, I was good at biology in high school. I was in all honors courses. So my mom her and my family actually did a great job raising us, because we grew, like I said, we grew up in the city of Detroit, and we went to private schools all of our life. I mean, she had to struggle to put us through private schools. So every day I was kind of like shipped out of our environment and then brought back to our environment. I was really, I would say I was pretty good in sports. I got kind of scholarships after I got after grade school. They started recognizing me for sports. So through the Catholic system, you really weren't supposed to like give scholarships or whatever. But I actually was a good student. My mom raised us right. I studied. I stayed out of trouble. I was a good athlete. So they kind of like moved me through. But I still faced a lot of racial issues as I was growing up, because I was a Black person in a private white school. And so although I was accepted as an athlete, I still wasn't good enough to date whoever I wanted to date. So you go through those struggles, but you know that you want better for you and for your family. So I went to Michigan State University and got my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. And then after that, I went off, and for those, a lot of people don't know, but I spent probably all of my college years modeling. I was a professional model, and I was actually, earning about $1,500 a day. I had a great friend. His name was Derek Jaggers. He would actually, kind of take notes for me in college. And basically when I got home from my modeling jobs, he would actually kind of teach me what I missed in class. So I can tell you the crazy story about it is that he would actually, he would get so frustrated because I would not be in class and wind up acing the test. And he was more fundamentally sound in it. But this comes to being a quick learner that most people have to understand. You don't have to be an expert in what you do. You just know, you have to know who the expert is. And he was an excellent teacher. He was excellent at conveying the information that he learned to me. And I picked up on the important points, and I would come in literally and ace it. And he would get a B or a C on the exam. And he's like, well, how the hell were you able to do it? And it's really picking out the key points, understanding how their concepts flow together. And even though he was a great teacher, he may not have been able to perform well on a test or whatever else. So you have to understand what tricks and traits that you have to be able to propel you to success. Like I said, you don't have to be the smartest person, but you have to understand what the key points are and be able to apply those points to be successful. And I say that, to go on and say that, so from there, when I was modeling, one of the things I'm trying to emphasize is that I've always had multiple streams of income. I never relied on one income to be my only income, because at a moment's notice, somebody could come to tell you your job is no longer there. So as I was in college, I was studying for mechanical engineering. I had a modeling job, and I was also in the summertime, I had a summer internship with all the major corporations that do like 3M, the people who do tape, DuPont, the people who make Teflon, Bayer aspirin. So I've always had major internship and major experience. So you guys have got to get out. So now the internet and being able to see podcasts and YouTube and all the rest, that's your education that you're getting from multiple sources. Now you just have to be able to apply those things and propel yourself forward. Back in the day, I took that work experience that I had and actually got a little bit from this company, a little bit from that company, a little bit from this company, because that was the only way that I could actually learn back then, in addition to school. Because remember, me being an educator right now, there is book knowledge that actually, it gives you the fundamentals. But on-the-job training is what actually develops you into the key person in the machine that you are, that now you can take that learning that you put and actually apply it to actually move you forward. And one of the main things that I talk about is velocity. So velocity, yeah, we can walk from here to anywhere in the world, but that's the slow route to get there. We could take a bus, a train, or a plane that's going to add velocity. Time is money. So when you're talking about time and money, you have to put velocity on things. Like for me, like if I was going to rent an apartment building, yeah, I can rent it to regular individuals, or I could put a program in it that actually, instead of just having a single occupancy, now I can have a double occupancy that's funded by the government that ensures that I'm going to be paid every month, and I'm going to get either twice the amount of money that I would have normally gotten. And then not only that, it brings in other people, it brings in other funding. So when we talk about velocity, that's one of the things, like I said, I mean, we could talk about a lot of different topics, and 45 minutes to an hour just isn't enough for all the information that I have for people. But I want to make sure that people know that. So, when I graduated from college, I was still modeling. I actually took a year off from when I graduated from Michigan State. I graduated for like a 3.85 or whatever else, which is good for an engineering program. I think there was probably, out of a class of over 1,000 mechanical engineers, there was only 30 Black people that actually graduated from that class of mechanical engineering. So it was a small amount, and a lot of people got weeded out in the process. Even though they were smart and all the rest of it, they got weeded out. From there, I took a year off and I traveled around the world and I modeled. And so the crazy part about it is that I probably made $150,000 a year at that point in time. But there was guys that I was out there working with, like the Shamar Moores, and there's this guy named Justin Chambers that was on, I think, Grey's Anatomy or whatever. So I'm out there working with all of these guys. And I realized that as an engineer, I was an introvert. I didn't speak well with people. I didn't, with these other guys, they may not have been as educated, or they may not have, they may not be educated or smart or whatever else, but they were street savvy. And you know what they used? One of the main things that I didn't take full advantage of when I was in college was networking. These guys networked as if it was a job. So they actually went on set, like we would model together. We'd go to Mexico or Europe, or I'd see these guys everywhere. But when the lights went down, they were out socializing. Now, they were into maybe things that I wouldn't have done or whatever else, but they used their network to actually propel them to different levels than what I was able to do, because I didn't know how to use my network effectively. So when you guys are out there building relationships, you have to build a strong network of people that are actually going to propel you forward versus hold you back. And a lot of times we like to be around our boys and hang out with people that actually only pull you back, and they don't actually help, push you forward. So you guys got to get out there and meet people, like when you and I reached out. You know what? You got to reach out to people who know, because if you hang around people that don't know, you won't get where you want to go. So, with that said, I went from there. Then I decided, that I thought that, all of this traveling, I was living out a suitcase, traveling from country to country, city to city around the world. Great, phenomenal experience. But also at the same time, you get homesick, because I wasn't into the same things that those guys were into. I wasn't into drugs. So currently, I don't drink, I don't smoke. So they were into drugs, they were doing, and then, at that point in time, there's a lot of line crossing between, hey, I need these jobs to actually live and survive. So they're willing to do things that my morals and values just wouldn't allow me to do. I just don't roll that way. So I decided, I'm going to go back home to my regular job. I worked for a company. I came back and I worked for a company called DuPont. DuPont is a good, engineering company. I came back and made $50,000 from working. And so when I made that $150,000, I was only working 2 or 3 days a week. And when I talk about 2 or 3 days a week, I mean, you go in and you eat lunch, and then you shoot for a few hours and you go home. And at that point in time, I wasn't reading. I wasn't learning another language. I wasn't doing anything really, because I was so into how can I be successful, and moping around because there was other guys that were making more money than me, that I didn't take it full advantage. Instead of, I stifled who knows where I could have gone and what I could have been, but I didn't take advantage of that free time that I had to actually propel myself to another level. And so for those people that are out there listening right now, they're saying, you know what, I feel stuck. I feel like somebody else is getting it further than I am. They're not, why is it me? Woe is me. take advantage of the opportunity. I should have been learning another language. I should have been learning other skills. I should have been reaching out to people. I mean, those are the things that I should have been taking advantage of that I took for granted being in those situations that I had. You guys have a whole vast network. If you have the internet, you have so many things. You can reach out to whomever you want. Who knows who you'll talk to and what opportunities that may be afforded to you. Anyway, so I went back and I said, you know what? I'm not going to miss out on any further opportunities. So I went to further my engineering career, my development career. So at that point in time, I started buying houses because I'm like, hell, okay, now $50,000 is not going to do it. I was making $150 and living comfortably at 22 years old. Now I'm making $50,000. Of course, this is back in 1993. Like I said, I'm a little bit older than most. But I was like, I have to, supplement my income. So one thing I did is I enrolled in a master's program to get my master's in business administration. But I have a degree in finance and economics. So I wanted to be able to put my engineering background together with the business background, because I knew, me being an introvert, I needed to transform myself to more of an extroverted type person, because I knew that even though engineering, I can sit behind a desk and make money, but where the money is really made is out in sales and marketing. I knew that. I just had to get myself in that. And so since I didn't have anybody to teach me that at that point in time, I had to learn it the formal way, which is through college. And so I went to get my master's in business administration, because there was no one that was going to teach me sales and marketing other than the corporate America. So I went and I got my master's and I started buying property. So those are the two things. Now that I'm here, I'm stationary, and I was in Parkersburg, West Virginia. So when you talk about racial divide in Parkersburg, West Virginia, you see a Black person, once every couple months. I mean, we had a couple at the plant, but so in each of in all of my experiences, fortunately and unfortunately, there was always been this racial divide. So as I'm coming through, I'm always still trying to promote Black people and Black Lives Matter, as I'm trying to gain my advancement in an environment that actually wants to hold you down. So, you always have that struggle of trying to achieve and trying to bring people with you, and you have a system that's kind of pulling you down. So, and the reason I point that out is not because I just want to make sure that everybody knows that there is a beautiful struggle out there. As you're advancing, there's still a struggle. This is not easy. And a lot of times when people come to me, a lot of people come, and I'm not going to say for handouts, but basically for handouts, because they're like, well, Mack, you're successful or whatever else. I'm like, I had a struggle. I had to struggle my ass off, and there was nobody to really help me along this path. And so for you to come to me to just ask me for something, and you have no value, and I didn't see you put forth that effort, I can help you with education, but I'm not going to help you with money, because if I do, I'm not teaching you how to fish. I'm just feeding you I'm feeding you for today.
Exactly.
So after that happened, I went and I still was developing properties. I was buying properties, selling properties, learning, because I didn't really know how to really fix up properties or all the rest of it. I did when I was in college, actually went into a partnership with my best friend to buy a hardware store. And we owned that hardware store. He still owned it for many years after I did, but I got out of it because there was a lot of riffraff in the neighborhood, and I just decided, it just wasn't the right thing for me to stay in. So I got out. I learned a lot of skills along the way. But now that I was out, I was learning how to do business. I was learning how to socialize with people. I was learning sales, and I was doing real estate. So at that point in time, I stayed in Parkersburg for a few years, learned a lot, then moved to another location in Philly. Actually, it was Delaware, is when I learned my passion, which was actually, I got into martial arts at that point in time. So currently right now I have a black belt in Goju-Ryu, a black belt in Aikido, and a black belt in Nagyu Jiu-Jitsu, which is stand-up Japanese fighting. And so the reason I was there is because I was at a seminar for troubled children. And I was there so DuPont was sponsoring, we had a booth to show kids from the inner city how to actually learn science and make science fun for inner city kids, for them to get involved in engineering. And so at that point in time, I'm sitting here and all the kids are not coming to the science table because science is not fun. It's not, even though we had all these cool experiments to make rockets go off, flares and all of these exciting stuff, people wanted all of the other fun stuff. So I'm sitting here watching this guy teach these young kids that are somewhat uninterested in martial arts. And after, during a break, I went over to him and said, hey, I want to learn. And so actually I went from standing there and trying to give back to other people to actually really learning, making some great friendships, learning a great art, and then opening up my mind to other things that most people, when you learn martial arts, it's one of those things where you think that you know what you're doing until you realize that you really don't. And I think so many times people they think intuitively that they do the wrong move intuitively, and which is so wrong. And that's why I want people to actually take the time to be educated, because, if you're getting choked or whatever else, a lot of times you put yourself in a greater harm, but by what you do versus what you don't know how. And so that's the real key on all of this, is I want people to understand that I can teach you a black belt move, but that does not mean that you're a black belt. You have to take the time and you have to learn and you have to go through the process. Everybody wants to jump to be from a white belt to a black belt without all of the learning and the teaching that goes with it. And the journey is so much more important sometimes than the destination that you get to. And so for me, right, I was there to help people. I was there trying to help kids and bring in and get a mentorship program. And I wind up helping myself. So typically, every time that I've usually put myself in a position to help people, I've been blessed to get the fruits of that return through something else. And so even though we all go through these struggles, don't get me wrong, I've helped out people, and it's been to my detriment. And so for me, my mom and God has blessed me with so many things that I want to continue to give back. And so for me, I help a lot of underserved communities. And so we'll get into, that piece of it. So after I went to DuPont, I actually, started learning martial arts. Then I was transferred to back to Detroit, Michigan. Now I'm back in my hometown. And so sometimes coming back to a hometown, like, if you're an athlete or whatever else, it can get you into more trouble because, now you're back in that environment that, was shady in the first place, that you worked so hard to get away from. But what I said is, when I go back, I'm going to make a difference. I'm going to go back and I'm going to make a difference. I'm not going to allow the people that have been around me to suffer. I'm going to actually help elevate those people. And so when I went back, I started buying more and more properties, and I started bringing up these neighborhoods that were dilapidated. And I started getting my friends and my family involved in the process and teaching and educating them. Now, the problem with that is that some people are not ready for what you have for them. And this is one of those life struggle issues that most people have to go through, is when do you cut the cord from those people that actually are pushing you forward versus holding you back? And so it was a hard struggle for me to realize that some people that stay in the same environment that have never left don't know any better, and they don't want to do any better. No matter how much you try to push, give them the opportunities to learn and to be a part and to make money and to grow with you. Some people just,
no matter how much you want it for them, if they don't want it for themselves, it's like it's unfortunately, but you can't help them. You
can't. You can't. And so I learned that. But what I did is I gave them the opportunity. And so what's the most important is that you give people the opportunity. You give them the benefit of the doubt. You don't prejudge. You don't say that, you don't set their limitations for them. You allow them to see the opportunities that are out there. And that's what we all need to be doing. It's just like you and I talking, we're trying to give people the opportunity to see a different light. So if somebody hears one thing that actually helps them to move them in the right direction, or motivates them to be a better person, or to do more, to get more, to give back more, that's what it's all about. And so what I did is I started giving more. I started doing a lot better because I was helping people, and I was actually changing lives, and people were coming, instead of me working hard to buy properties and find properties, people were coming to me with opportunities now, and I was helping people change their lives. Instead of me renting homes, I was giving people opportunities for home ownership through land contracts or seller financing. So I was actually, I felt good about what I was doing. I was changing neighborhoods, changing lives, giving people, if once I started fixing up those homes on that block, people started taking more pride in their blocks because now either the drug dealers were gone or, and now the neighborhood was being beautified. And so at that point in time, they had more pride in what they were like, the neighborhood's going to shit. And now somebody cares enough to actually change. So that's what I started doing. And so from that point forward, I really started to focus my life on corporate America and still doing my real estate. So remember, I'm still in corporate America and I'm climbing the ladder and I'm still fighting for equal rights, equal pay for men, women, and minorities across the board.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
How did you deal with that? How I know there was like a lot of rejection you may have to have deal with. How did you deal with that in corporate America?
so you have to realize. So the crazy thing about corporate America is that they always feel like they have to have their token Negroes. Okay, and so the thing is you have to get. So the thing is I was smart, educated. People they like me, they like dealing with me, but also at the same time, I wasn't a yes person either. If something was not right, I had to voice my opinion because people only see from their side of the track and they don't understand. Like, the hardest concept is, you may not understand the business, but just say if we had a shipment that we were supposed to deliver a product to someone and the normal route to deliver that product might cost us $1,000. Okay. And because the inefficiencies and ineffectiveness of people in the organization, we may have to get that product. Normally we would get that product maybe a month before, bring it into a warehouse in the United States. It comes from Europe, bring it into the United States and then distribute it over time to people that we need to distribute it to. Because they put the wrong people in the wrong position and pay people that are not qualified to be in these positions because you're my boy and, we're good old boy network or whatever else. Now we have to air freight that same product that would have cost us maybe $1,000 to ship from Texas to Detroit. Now we have to spend $100,000 to air freight that in, to get it in, to make sure that it gets to the customer. And because you put somebody that was incompetent in that position, that was your boy, now at this point in time, we spend $100,000 and I come to you because there's a minority or person of color or a female that I believe needs a raise or she needs a bonus because she's doing a phenomenal job. And you won't let me give her 1 or 2% more on an annual basis that may be equivalent to $3,000-$4,000, but you're willing because you let your boy who's incompetent be in this position. We just spent $100,000 for one flight to get some product here. Mm-hmm. So when we talk about the ineffectiveness and inefficiencies and the inequalities, those are the things that I had to deal with. And I'm like, this is totally wrong. He was like, yeah, but that's the service to customer. Yeah, but you put your boy who's incompetent in this position because he is the same color as you. And there's all of these great people that are doing wonderful things that you're tearing down their pride and their work ethics because you won't give them what they deserve. So when we talk about living the best lifestyle that you deserve, why would we not let these people be rewarded for what they're doing? And so it was always that hard struggle between, me being a manager, understanding the importance of getting a product to the customer, but also taking care of my people in the process of doing it. Because your people are what helps you build your business. So you have to invest in your people because your people represent you. And so that's so important is that, instead of trying to get more out of your people and pay them less, I know it's a concept, but if your business is not running and they don't represent your business won't be successful. You got to pay your people appropriately and you got to make sure that they feel valued. And so that's so important. And that's not only for people that you employ, but it's the people that are in your life that are making your life a better life. Whether it's your friends or your family or whatever else, show appreciation to those that really help boost you up that you may take for granted. So with that said, I mean, corporate America. So I got to the point, man, where I was a vice president of sales and marketing on a national level for a company called Bayer. So Bayer bare aspirin, but they also have multiple divisions. So like the plastic that's on your head, like the plastic that's almost in everything in your refrigerator. So all of these things. And so I was in charge of the automotive industry for the United States for plastics for automotive. So I traveled around the world for this job all over the place. And I can tell you the first day that the first global meeting that I went to, there was no black. So all of these people, there was thousands of people that came in to Germany because it's a German-based company, which is the crazy part. German-based company, only black that's in leadership, in management across the world. And we get in there and the legal team says, they're trying to make sure that you don't do anything wrong on a legal basis and go to jail because Bayer, the company, can only support you from so many aspects. And so you have to, his main thing that he said was you have to make sure that you don't go to jail to be in jail with blacks and Hispanics and all of these other criminals, these thugs. And so everybody who knows me, the first thing they did was they put their head down because this is the corporate legal, global corporate leader saying that you don't want to, do something wrong so you can put in jail with blacks and Hispanics and thugs and criminals. I mean, we all just got thrown all into the criminal mind and criminal system just because of the color of our skin or where we come from. And so, I mean, it was things like that happened time and time again. And I just kept a log. Then, so I was promoted by 2007. I was promoted to the vice president. I got a new boss. All the other bosses before then had elevated me, promoted me. This guy came in and was like, because at that point in time, I had a country club membership, tickets to all the Pistons game, Red Wings game, Detroit Lions game, Michigan State, any concert that came in. I mean, I controlled, because we as a corporation wanted to get our customers in to all of these events because we're building relationships. So this is where that networking relationships, because most of the time when we do business, by the time we sit down at the business table to perform business, the deal's already done because of our relationship. It's like, Mack is going to take care of me. Mack, I want to do business with this guy. So all of that other outside networking, I mean, my wife always says, well, why do you travel so much? Because that network is what actually drives business. We're just doing the transaction when we sit down at the table. But the thought process that they're going to do business with me was made up long before we sat down at the table. And
I can not to cut you off, I can definitely second that, because the relationships I've built and the business I've done, it's because the quality of the relationship that I have with the person, like just being genuine, just being real, just adding value. Like you said, once it comes to the time to where they need to pay, it's just like, go ahead, take my credit card or whatever it is.
Exactly.
But it's the power of relationship is unbelievable. And I know it's helped me out tremendously and got me in doors that I never expected to be in, just because of building relationship and adding value to people.
It's so important. I mean, and so that's why, like I said, it's the value of relationships, and it's the experience you go through, and that you have to understand. There's, no matter what you're doing, I mean, you can gracefully get out of a relationship. You don't have to burn every bridge that for something that doesn't work. And so, that's one of the things I try to teach people is that, build strong foundation, build a great bridge. And then even if it doesn't work out, people are greedy and they're selfish, and because they don't know any better. And those that know better, and they try to screw you over, fuck you over, then you have to say, you know what, I'm done with you. You're stupid enough to mess up this relationship because I'm going places and doing things, and you just won't be part of it. And that's fine. If you want to screw yourself over, then do it. But what I would say is try to exit whatever relationship as gracefully as you can, because you don't have to be the asshole that they are. And so people, even though they may not respect it, but other people around say, you know what, I want to do business with Mack, because even though he could have been mad, he could have pursued this, he could have did whatever else, this brother stepped out gracefully and he did what was right for everybody as he left. And so that's what it's about. No matter who screws me over for money, I'm always going to make more money. But I never have to make money with you ever again. I'm going to be okay.
Right.
So I think it's important, like I said, for those relationships that that you're right, that you make sure that you have value in those relationships and people see that. So when this VP, when the I would say the senior vice president or the president came in, he didn't like me. He didn't like he was like, I don't understand how this guy that's 40 years old has all of this, everybody liked me. And he was like, I did, and so this white guy came in and he didn't mean to be an asshole, but he had a point to prove. And so when he came in, I dealt with him the first couple of years, and I went from getting ones on all my performance reviews to getting a 4. So I went from a 1 to a 4 just with him coming in. Basically, 4 is so my bonus was, I didn't get a bonus that year. Everything that could have gone wrong with him went wrong. So basically after a year that he was in, I fought him for a year. And I was making more money in real estate than I was making in corporate America. But I still had, the reason I stayed in corporate America wasn't because of I could travel around the world, because I was tired of traveling around the world. Not because I went to sporting events and all the rest of it, because I could afford to do that on my own if I wanted to do that. And I was being sometimes around people I didn't even want to be around, but I had to further the business. And so to further the business, I had to keep fostering the relationship. And so what I realized is that I need to be here to be the spokesperson for my people, because if I don't do it, they're not gonna have a voice, because I was the only minority that was sitting on the leadership team. And so I had to stay there until I just had enough where I was like, you know what? I came in the year before, it was around Christmas time. I said, I got a Christmas present for you. I'm leaving the company. And this is a present for you because you have an issue with me. And I'm not going to sit here and try to make you like me, because I don't like you either. But I want to make sure that this business is turned over successfully. So I took a severance package that gave me a year to work. And what I did in that year is set up and make sure that everybody that was around me was either in a position that they deserved to be in, like you said at the beginning of your podcast. I put them in a position that they deserve to be in with the pay that they deserve to get. So when I left out of that door, that I made sure that at least I did my part to make sure that they were in the right place before I left out. And that's the only thing that I could do as I was leaving, because I knew that based on him being there, that it was just going to be a detriment to me and for those that were around me. And so the crazy thing about it is, about 2 years later, he was actually fired for all the things that he had accumulated over the years that I had let HR know. Wow. And it came in from his boss. He did some inappropriate things based on dialogue and the way he treated people and all the rest of it. 2 years later, he was let go out of the company. So not necessarily saying that bad, good things come to bad people, but I think for the organization, it was the right move for them to make sure that they put the right people in the right place. Right. So I quit corporate and I went strictly to real estate. My financial situation just took off at that point in time, man.
I think it's really interesting that you stayed within corporate America and you had a real estate business on the side. Like you said, you're making more money in real estate. A lot of people, they might see that first flip and they're like, I'm out. Yeah. I'm doing real estate full time. Yeah. But you felt like you had a duty and you felt like, you had something to accomplish in corporate America. And so I definitely tip my hat off to you for trying to put people in position before you left the door.
Yeah.
You left the company.
That's just what's important, man. I think you always have to give back. I mean, and that's so that like I said, that led me to the doing real estate full time. And so what I did is when I left corporate America, all I did was flip properties. I mean, what I did is I moved from Detroit to Florida. I picked up my family. We moved to Florida. And all I did was flip properties. All I did was look for properties that had $100,000 spread in it. And I would try to do a property every 3 months. So every 3 months. Mm-hmm. So what I did is I flew my boys in from Detroit because, by this time I've developed a huge network of people. I flew my boys in. We would work on a house. So I would do 3 or 4 houses a year. I work at my own pace, so I'm making $300,000 or $400,000 in profit. every 3 months, every 4 months. So I'm still making $300,000-$400,000. In a year, and that was comfortable for me at that point in time. Could have been making more, but I was working at my own pace, being my own boss, doing what the heck I wanted to do. And to be honest with you, my wife was like, Mac, you're so smart. Why would you want to do it? Why would you want to flip properties? Because I'm like, because I enjoy doing it. I mean, I really, really enjoy flipping properties, and I'm making good money. She was like, yeah, but you go, you wake up in the morning, you go, you get your supplies shipped in and you go work. I'm like, I'm working with my boys all day. We're sitting around shooting shit. We're eating, working. I mean, what could be better? And she's like, yeah, that's cool, but you're so much smarter than that. You're locked in a box basically all day. And I'm like, but I'm good with this. And so she was like, yeah, but you need to do more. And so at that point in time, I'm like, okay, well, I'm making $500,000 a year comfortably.
I think that's, not to cut you off, I think that's the beautiful thing, that your partner can see the potential in you and have the audacity to push you, because like you said, you're comfortable, you're making a great amount of money, more than the average American, obviously, and your wife is like, no, you need to take it a step further, and I think
Yeah.
that's
So she was
awesome.
like, you need to do more. And she was like, I'm reading the richest man in Babylon, and he loans money. He just makes money off of loaning money.
Yep.
And so I was
Yep.
like, yeah. And I was already loaning money, but I didn't turn it into a business. And so a wholesale company I mean, I had done wholesale when I was back in Detroit, because in Detroit, I started out buying one or two properties, and there was a company called Sigma Financial that basically was a servicing company for a lot of banks. And when the market crashed, they had all of these assets that I would buy hundreds of properties at a time, and I would cherry pick the best properties, flip them, and make a ton of money, and the rest I would sell to all of these other investors. So I was doing wholesaling before I even knew what wholesaling really was. And so 2014, I started really, I would say, wholesaling at that point in time. So I worked with the company for about a year. They had been talking to me, recruiting me, saying, listen, you're buying properties from us. Why don't you just work for us? Because everything that you touch turns into a ton of money, and we need this for our investors. So I started working for them. I was still kind of flipping properties, but kind of still working for them. And then I started making money. So I was making, I started wholesaling properties, and I was making probably $20,000-$30,000 a month wholesaling properties. So I was like, all right, this is cool. It's making me what I would almost make if I was flipping properties, but it's a lot less work. It's a lot less physical work. It's a lot more networking at this point in time. And then not only that, I had a ton of money that was stockpiled. And so for these deals that they were wholesaling, they needed somebody to finance these deals. And so I started financing deals, and I was making money. So it was like one of these things when so now I'm making money wholesaling, and now I'm actually financing. I'm starting to be the bank. And so on these deals, for every deal that I would do, on $100,000, I would make about $7,000 up front. And then every month I was making $1,000 a month for those deals, between $1,000 and $2,000, sometimes even $3,000 a month, depending on the loan. So now I'm making, by doing no physical work, no physical labor, I would say, I'm making around $40,000 a month, just kind of financing properties and wholesaling. So I'm like, all right. So I stayed there about a year, and then I opened up my own shop after a year after that. I got a partner, and he ran the wholesale side, and I ran the financing side. And so at that point in time, man, my financial situation just skyrocketed, because what I started doing at that point in time now was using my all of my savings, and I was financing from my savings. And then I started learning ways to be able to use my IRA to be able to finance properties. And so I was really, my business had really started taking off. Excuse me one second. My business had really started taking off from the financial standpoint. But what I was finding out is I was running out of money. I didn't have enough money for all the deals that I needed. So I needed somebody to be able to buy my notes, because as I originated my notes, if I kept them, I would make 14% on an annual basis. But if I actually sold that note and I was able to service it, I would actually sell it for 10%. I would have it for 14%. So I would keep 4% on the back end for me. And then I had my origination points and my fees. So I was making about, 10% a month on the deals that I had. And the way that I said, when I talk about velocity, me being able to sell my notes. So just say if I had a note, I had $1 million and I had a 14%. Okay, I'd make $140,000 a year on that money. Okay, which is good at 14%. However, if I decided to 140 grand on money that would have just been sitting in the bank is pretty good. But what I said, you know what, I got to do something different than that. And so what I did is I found somebody that buy my notes. So every week, if I had the same $1 million, I could then $1 million and I could originate loans for $1 million at 4%. It's $40,000. And then I found somebody to buy my notes the following week from me. And so they would give me my $1 million back and I would give them the notes. Mm-hmm. And so each week I had 4% this week, 4% next week, 4% the week after that, 4%. So in a month's time, I had 16% return on that $1 million. So now I'm making $160,000 a month versus $140,000 a year. And then now you multiply that by 12. Mm-hmm. So the thing is I know that the numbers may not, but the thing is when I talk about everything that I do, I try to put velocity on it. So so now that I found me a note buyer, and then there's always a ton of people that need money to flip properties. And so how I got into the education. So this is how I got into the education piece, because I went through and I was So I was loaning money to all of these people, and I realized that 90% of the people were not making any money on the deals. And when I evaluate a deal for people to make sure that they make money, because it doesn't make any sense for me to loan you money if you can't pay me back. Right. So I evaluate these. I have 20 plus years of evaluating properties to determine whether or not it's a good deal or not. And these people, 90 to 95% of people, were not making money on deals that I vetted that I know were good deals, or I wouldn't have lent them money. And so I get out there and I start to look at, I'm investing in this guy's course and I'm investing in this guy's course. So I know how to do this. And what I realized, Chris, that these gurus, even though they may know things, they don't know enough. It's like teaching people a black belt move does not make them a black belt. And so all of these people went into these flips not knowing what the hell that they were doing, and it's like, why would you go to a doctor that doesn't know what they're doing? And so these people are investing in these gurus that don't really know shit. They've been in the business for 6 months or a year, but because they have a good marketing presence. And this kind of gets back to what I was talking to you about before. I may not have a great marketing presence, but you sit me down and let me educate you. And so the crazy thing about it is when I started sitting down with people, I would tell them things, and things that people would go out and spend $10,000. They were like, shit, I just spent $10,000 on this course that I've been doing for 6 months. And you sat down in an hour, and I understand, shit, I should have paid you the money. I'm like, well, shit, pay me the money, but they've already spent the money and spent 6 months learning something. And now they're like, damn, I should have just come to you. And so now the problem is that it's hard. So for me, it's almost hard for me, the knowledge that I give, because I can just dump it so quickly and fill their brains, and it's enough. It's like, I tell everybody, it's like when you were young, I don't know if you had it, but you could draw a picture and you connect the numbers. And that when you connect the numbers, you actually get a picture,
Get the picture,
so a lot of times people are just missing dots. Everything is there, but they're just missing these little connecting dots. And once I connect those dots, they're like, I get it now. But the problem is that I've given it to them, and I kind of given it to them for free, where other people that are out there have who've taken their money, unfortunately, and not that they didn't mean well, they just didn't do well, and so that's kind of where it was. So I got into educating because I see so many people get into real estate, lose their ass, and leave. because they weren't taught appropriately. And so it's like for me, and what I do now, man, just like I did when I was in corporate America, I help the underserved communities. So I help all, those people who want to flip properties but they don't have the right education, they don't have the finances. They have enough money to get into a project, but they don't have enough to fully finance it. And so I help the underserved community. Now, don't get me wrong, it may cost them a little bit more money, but I'm giving them an opportunity that nobody else would give them. And so as long as they do it right, I can continue to lend to them over and over and over again. And so now they can migrate from using my money, which is a little bit more expensive, to something that's less expensive, because now they build up a track record. They've got some success behind them. Hopefully they've been able to get money and store up some money so they have a bigger down payment. So I try to give them an opportunity and educate them. And that's how I got into the education space, because I don't really need the education space to actually pay my bills. But if I'm going to give you my time, then I have to trade it for something.
Right.
And I have to get money from it.
Gotcha.
And that's the only way, because if I spend all my time educating, then I won't be able to make any money for myself. And so that's how I got into this space. But it's because I've gone through it, and I see every day that if I did 100 loans, I'm telling you, 90 to 95 people are not going to make any money off of those loans that I just gave them. Don't get me wrong, as a lender, I'm always going to get my money back. And when you say, well, how do you get your money back if they don't make any money? Because I loan to them at 65% of the value. So even if they mess up, they got to mess up 35%. And so usually they eat away because they got bad. So number one, sometimes they buy them at the wrong price. They use the wrong contractor. When you get the wrong contractor, Chris, it throws everything off on your project, because now you have to, usually they'll take your money the first time. And not only do they take your money the first time, they screw things up, which means that you have to buy more material. They've taken your money. Now you have to get somebody in to now do it right, which is now you have to spend money for them and their time, more material. And remember, most of these people are borrowed money from me. Every month they have to pay $1,000. Just say if you were going to make $20,000 on a project and you thought it was going to take you 3 months or 4 months to do it, and now it's gone a year or 13 months or 14 months at $1,000 a month. You've just at $1,000 a month times 14 months. You've now spent $14,000, and you thought that you were going to make 20 grand. Okay. You thought you were going to make 14 of it is gone right there. Now, that's just the mortgage. That doesn't include your insurance. It doesn't include your taxes. It doesn't include any carrying costs, your utilities. So, and then you got to pay for your material that was messed up. By the time you're all said and done, you're screwed. And people make the same mistakes over and over again, because now they're going out trying to vet. They find this property, they hear gurus telling them, and they run out and they're just not prepared. So I teach everybody. So I have it's called the Major Framework. You go on the Major Framework, and it's basically all the key steps that you need. It's just an outline, but I do have a course that people can actually, where I walk you through each and every piece of flipping, wholesaling, all the rest of it. But it's still a course. The real meat of it comes in where we actually do the mentorship program of it. When you have a deal and you can actually call me and we go through that deal. Okay, have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? And if you haven't done these things, then you're not ready for this deal. Can we get you ready for it? Yeah, we can. And so it's really not about, like I said, the course is really not more about me. It's more about you and where you want to go, because I've been there. I've done that. And so a lot of people are like, well, I'm going to try. So you can do it. You can do it on your own. You can look up YouTube. You can talk to people. You can learn. But remember, time is money. And so a lot of times, like coming off of this pandemic, right now, people have so much stimulus money that they don't really understand that. Well, they don't know what to do with it. And they don't understand that it's going to run out. And when it runs out and you lose your job and the economy starts to slow down, unfortunately, people are going to be losing their homes. I mean, and because businesses are not going to be the same as what they were. So if you had a business, I mean, retail store, I mean, I have this kind of VSL that's coming out, but retail stores are dying. So if you're in a retail store, or if you think that you're safe in your corporate job, things are going to be scaled down. And so you need to find another way to be able to earn income. And I think more people are going to be working from home. So You need to make sure that what you do
Mm-hmm.
is somewhat centered around people and servicing people that are going to be home, whether or not that's food, whether or not there's services, whether or not that's things for people to do inside their homes, because life is going to change. So I just want everybody to, when it comes out of the pandemic, for them to be educated and be prepared that the old way of thinking, the old way of living has got to change, and you have to adapt to the
Mm-hmm.
times. The fundamentals of real estate are still going to be the same. No matter if they can put new names on it, they can dress it up, they can dumb it down. But the bottom line is the
Mm-hmm.
fundamentals have the same things that I was doing 20 or 30 years ago, still being done now. People just get more creative and try to call them different names and still try to benefit from or make money off of it. I'm trying to keep people safe. I want
Got you.
people making money. I want people to not give up on something that can be very lucrative because they've come across the wrong person teaching them maybe the right things, but
Mm-hmm.
in the wrong way. So, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
I got into the
Mm-hmm.
education piece. I mean, so when we talk about flipping properties and wholesale properties, I don't do that as much anymore. I have people that I have a network. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of me doing it myself and competing with all of these people, basically I've partnered with all of this. So remember, when we talk about relationships, instead of this, you being my competition, being a wholesaler, no, let's not look at, let's try to make sure that if you have a product, that we get your product sold. If I have a product, that you get my product sold. You need financing, I can provide. So now I'm the finance person for everybody who's wholesaling, instead of people saying, well, that's my competition, I'm not going to go to him for financing, because I know I can make more money in financing than I can in anything else. So why would I compete with you on something that brings me in what I would say
Mm.
peanuts, when I want the steak?
Right.
So it's just the way that you think
Right.
about it. So all of these people that used to be my competition, they're all my partners now. And I want to make sure that they're successful with financing. So it helps and boosts my income and my revenue. And so it's just the way that you think of things. And so wholesaling, flipping, I mean, you want my contact for flipping a property? That's no problem. I'll give it to you, because I know that they're good people and they're going to take care of you. And so the next time that you need finance, or next time you need a property, you go come to me, because you know that I have all the resources. So I try to make sure that
Mm.
I'm the hub, and there's all of these spokes that come out. Because if you're the hub,
Right.
somebody
Right.
says, oh, Mac, I need an electrician. That electrician, okay, I'm going to give you my electrician. That electrician is going to do that job for you. And, he may give me a couple $100 because I referred that job. So I got a couple $100 coming in from the electrician. I got a couple $100 from the plumber coming in. I just wholesaled a property. I got money coming in from wholesaling the property that I did a JV for. I just financed this property for somebody. I got some money coming in from this. So the money comes in from multiple streams. Oh, now I still have my rents coming in from my building. Oh, I still have my interest on the mortgage coming in from this. So you have all of these things that
Right.
come in
Right.
from different sources because of the network that you now have, and you're the hub with all of these spokes coming out of it. And so that's the key to
Got you.
long-term success. Multiple streams of income, a huge network, doing good business, and just being a good person. You don't have to be an asshole to get respect. And so I used to manage through
Mm.
influence instead of power. And so
Hmm.
I think that there's power in influence versus being that fist, that hammer. And that's just how I manage people, and that's how I like to live my life.
Wow. That's really good information. Yeah, we can. I mean, we can start wrapping this thing up. You gave a ton of great advice, man. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Just sitting here listening to you, just my mind is just,
Well,
just going everywhere. But what I asked for my guests is if they can leave one last piece of advice for the audience. It can be real estate related, business, life related. Just one last piece of advice, and we can end it on
so I
that
think the
note.
advice that I will give people, in all sincerity, is that have passion in what you do. The one thing that's going to
Mm.
drive you to be successful in anything that you do, whether it's a relationship, whether that's your business, put your heart into it. For me, one of the biggest things for me is, my wife always says, Mac, it's late, come to bed, time to shut it down.
Mm.
And so what I'm so passionate about, what I do in my life, and how I'm able to help people, it never feels like work. So when you're doing things that you truly
Mm-hmm.
enjoy and you have passion behind it, it doesn't feel like work. It comes effortlessly. And
Mm-hmm.
so go after those things that you really enjoy. Hopefully you can make money at it and be
Mm-hmm.
successful. But go follow your dreams, follow your passion. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't do it, and keep striving for perfection.
Love it. Is there any social media handles that you want to give to the people or websites that people can contact you at? I'll also put everything in the description of
Yeah,
this
so
podcast
everything
as
is
well.
is Mack Major REI. So if you're looking at Instagram, it's at Mack Major underscore REI. If you're going to look up my course on Facebook, it's at mackmajorrei.com. Everything is Mack Major, MACKMAJOR, either underscore REI or with no underscore
Mm-hmm.
REI. And I look forward to you guys looking. I have a ton of free information out there. If you guys want to get into a
Mm-hmm.
mentorship program or actually learn from somebody who's gone through it all, just hit me up. I'm willing to talk to you guys on a
Mm-hmm.
consultation for sure, for free. But if you really want to
Mm-hmm.
get in depth and really learn it and be successful, hit me up.
Mac, well, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time. It's been an amazing conversation. And on that note, it's your boy Chris, and I'll catch you guys next week. Boom. Okay. No, man, that was. I'm just